Hey everyone, welcome to ScrapbookPal's YouTube channel. It's Gina here with you today to share a card using the Lawn Fawn Special Delivery Stamp Set and the Conversation Heart Stencil. To start off today's card, we'll be doing a bit of masking. I don't mind masking at all, but sometimes I need to create a template, which is what I did here. I created masks using Gina K's Masking Magic, and I stamped out a template of how I wanted the bird to look with all his accessories. So you can create so many different images using this stamp set by mixing and matching what you want. You can use the owl with the mail carrier and the envelopes and the hat, or none at all, and you can even change the wings. So I think that this is a really versatile stamp set. What I did was I placed the template into my MISTI and I placed the items that will be out in front first, picked it up with my MISTI, removed my template, and then went ahead and stamped it using Gina K's Amalgam black ink. Once I have the three items that will be in front first, I'm going to go ahead and cover them up with the Masking Magic. And then place the template back in and line up my bird body into the MISTI, pick it up, and go ahead and stamp. You'll notice that I have a second image going, and I like doing this because if I create the mask for images, I want to go ahead and stamp out quite a few of them so I don't have to do it again. For the last step, I just needed to add the little bird wings, and I added all the masks to the image that I already have stamped out, and this is the last piece to this puzzle. So once I'm done, I'll remove all the images and start coloring. For all my coloring today, I will be using Copic markers, and this is my go-to medium. I'm just most comfortable using markers. I really like them, and by using a 3-color combo, I am able to get the dimension I want with these markers. So you definitely don't have to color the way I do. I usually go in with the darker color, and that will be my shaded areas. Then I'll go in with a mid-tone and fill up more of that space, and then a light color to fill out the rest of the white space on an image. So for some of these smaller bits and pieces like the heart and the beak, I only use 1 to 2 colors, and for the larger areas like the little mail carrier, the hat, and his body, I do use 3 colors. I find that 3 colors provide the dimension that I want for my images, and I think it works really well. So I think that once you have good blend combinations, you're able to create and get that dimension that you want. So again, for example, my pink color, I'm putting down the darkest color first, adding it in where I think all the shadows will be. Usually if something is over an image or behind, I will put the shadow there. Then I'll go in with my mid-tone just to blend it out a little bit more before I go in with my lightest color. So the lightest color here will be the R81, and I'll just fill up the rest of the white space, and it blends out nicely. So this is my colored image of this cute little bird. For my background, I'll be using Distress Oxide inks on Neenah Solar Crest 80-pound paper, and the inks blend very easily and smoothly, so I wanted to create a rainbow array of colors, and I'll have all the colors listed down below. For the stencil itself, I'm starting out with the heart piece. This is a layering stencil, so once I'm done with this piece, I'll use the second stencil to add the little words on the conversation hearts. For the stencil itself, I find it helpful to tape it down with washi so it doesn't move. I tend to really work at my blending, and sometimes I will move the stencil off the paper and it's hard to get it lined up perfectly, so I like to just tape it down with a bit of washi or a low tack tape just so you're holding the stencil in place. So I'm going to go in and add all the different colors. I decided to do a diagonal rainbow, and I did this because later on I'll be adding a sentiment strip in a darker color, and that's because this background is quite busy. There's a lot of color and there's a lot of detail with the text on the hearts, so I found that it would be really hard to see the sentiment that you want to put on top of this card without a dark strip. So moving on to the conversation text. So I'm again using washi to hold down the stencil, and I'm going to go in with Black Soot Distress Oxide ink. And here I'm using it with a blending tool, and I'm really pressing into all the little nooks and crannies of the lettering because it is thin. So once I go around my first pass, I will go again on a second pass just to make sure that I've inked up all the little areas. I really wanted to do this right the first time. Once I removed the stencil, I didn't want to have to reposition it and go back in to add additional ink. So just to make sure that everything is nice and covered, I will go a second pass through all the letters in this Conversation Hearts to make sure that it is nice, dark, and black. So once I do that, I remove the stencil and I'm really happy how it turned out. It's so fun. This is definitely a bold background, and that is also another reason why I really wanted to use a dark sentiment strip. So I just pulled out a piece of dark gray cardstock. I am prepping it with my anti-static powder tool because we will be doing a bit of embossing with Gina K's white embossing powder. I actually am using 2 sentiments in this strip. So I'm going to go ahead and place down the first sentiment and stamping it with Versamark ink and then going in with the white embossing powder. Once I add the embossing powder, I'm going to go in and heat set that and then move on to my second sentiment. The second sentiment I wanted to use is the one that says special delivery. But I wanted the bird to stand in between the 2 words. And because I have a tendency not to cut my stamps, I am adding an extra step of masking. So I want to stamp out delivery first, and I go through the same process. My anti-static powder tool, then the embossing powder, and then heat set. And of course, because I needed to shift the words, I do have to mask off each word. And if you don't mind cutting your stamps in half, you can separate them and you'll be able to do this in one pass. But because I just can't bring myself to do it, I have to do it in 2 passes. But it works out perfectly. It's not 100% lined up, even though it looks like it, but it works. So any excess embossing powder, I just use my finger to remove it, and I'll go ahead and heat set that. I did trim this down because I didn't want it to cover up too many of the hearts that I worked so hard to ink up. And so I trimmed it down to about 1 inch, and it actually only covers 1 row of those hearts. I also trimmed down this background panel by 1/4 of an inch, and I'm matting it on a piece of pink cardstock. And I'm using Honeybee's precision glue to adhere everything together. I find that this is the most inexpensive way of using adhesives. I have a lot of double-sided tape, but the glue goes a long way, so I really enjoy using it, and I've been reaching for liquid glue over double-sided tape more often lately. So I'm just putting down all my pieces together. I do cut off the sides of the sentiment strips that hang over the card panel, and I did that so I can make sure that I could get it centered. So once I adhere the little bird, this card is complete, and I think it turned out so cute, and it's so reminiscent of those conversation hearts that you get around Valentine's Day. So I hope you enjoyed this card, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!